Hello. This is probably my most controversial video to date. I want to talk about the limits of artistic expression in gaming. I've talked about this before when Hatred came out, and I had a thing or two to say about Hatred. Hatred was much less bad than people thought. The question here, the main question, the question everybody's asking is, it's one thing to say that a game is bad. It's another thing entirely to say that it's so bad that it is actually in immoral status, right? That it is actually so bad to the point where its very existence is bad for our species. One could make the argument that it shouldn't exist. Is this possible? Now, some people immediately think, no, of course it's not possible, right? Value is subjective, etc. After all, how could gaming possibly be immoral? Morality is something that applies to actions and physical things and real-world objective things. Games are not real. They don't happen in the real world. Except that they do, they just don't happen in the physical world. They happen in the digital world. The digital world is still real, it's just not the physical world. It's like, don't conflate reality with physical reality. It just makes things confusing. So, obviously there is a limit to artistic expression, right? For example, I can't have my artistic expression involve me killing other people, right? But I'm going to, of course, say that the line is drawn much further up from that. Let's imagine a scenario here. Let's imagine a game. Let's just say right off the bat, people who say that what happens in a game, is totally okay because none of it is real. I would say that these people are funny because all they're showing is how much imagination they lack, and how little they actually know as to how awful a game can be. You see, it's thought of as sort of unfair when you judge people for what they like in art, right? But it is totally fair to do that, because if you can look at a person who and you can judge based on their characteristics and their preferences what kinds of games they might like, right? You can do that to a certain degree of accuracy. You won't be perfectly correct, but you might, be a good shot at it and be decent at giving them suggestions. If you can do that, then you should be able to do the reverse, which is looking at a game and then figuring out the demographic that would most likely enjoy that game, and furthermore, figuring out the character traits of the demographic. Again, to a varying degree of accuracy. And some people are already like, no, you can't do that. Of course not. Well, why? It's the same thing as the first thing. It's just the function inverted, right? Of course you can do that. It's not perfect, but, For example, a game about pretty pink unicorns, I could safely assume that the people who enjoy that are probably young girls. And, a few tragic, young males, probably. But yeah, you can do that. You're not always going to be right, but you can and should do that. So let's imagine a game. Let's imagine I made a game, right? Let's imagine I made this whole big open world game called Rape. Now, Rape is it's a very simple game. Well, it's not that simple. It's simple enough to understand, let's say. It's an open world game. I control a character, a man. I can customize him. I can make him black. I can make him white. I can make him big or small or short, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I live in this open world. I get to walk around. It's kind of like GTA, actually. I get to do some things. Now, the basic mechanic of what I can do is I can go to work. Maybe some of that part is boring and just sort of automatic. But most of my action happens at night. And my goal in this game that I've made is to rape. Specifically to rape women. Or men as well. Or hell, let's rape children. Let's throw children in there as well. Why not? Let's rape everybody. No. Actually, that'll be the sequel. That'll be Rape 2. Now with children. No. Okay. So, let's just say it's raping women. That's all I'm doing in this game. That's all the game is about, basically. It's about raping women. There's gonna be, a basic rape mechanic. I'm gonna go to parties, or I'm gonna interact with NPCs, and I'm gonna sort of see them and maybe talk to them and maybe find out what they're doing. I don't know how rapists operate, but let's say I study up on some rapists to figure out how to make this gritty and realistic and authentic, just like the real rapists, and and then I see what they do and how they do and how they plan their actual the hunt, so to speak. And, maybe there's an NPC there, and then I follow her around, and I figured out, she has some late yoga, meetings late at night, and then she walks through the park. Well, I can ambush her in the park, and then rape her. In the park. And I get rewards for raping, obviously. That's the main mechanic. There's no consensual sex in this game. That's not allowed. Right? That would be too boring, right? No, it's just, all sex in the game has to be non-consensual. Otherwise, what's the point? Right? So then, and let's say there's all these mechanics on how I could do this. I have to plan my route, I have to plan the ambush, I have to plan my getaway, I have to plan how I get unseen, I have to pick my gear, I can rob her purse and then use that money to buy, chloroform so that the next rape goes even smoother. Hell, I can even rape in numerous different ways. I can choose the position, the location, maybe I can bruise her, I can beat her, I can kill her, I can torture her. No, that could be in the DLC. Rape, now with murder. And so on and so forth. Hell, there could even be a story element to this game. It's not just mindless rape, right? No, let's add a story element to it. Okay. Why am I a rapist? Well, maybe I was abused as a child. Maybe my, mother abused me as a child. I was foster home, or maybe not a foster home. Maybe this was my birth mother. She didn't get an abortion. She didn't want to have her kid, and she abused me. Or let's say she sexually abused me, right? And so I mean, and in the story of the game, at some point, and then she just left. She abused me, and then she left, and she ran away. And at some point in this game, in the story part of this game, if you could call it that, I figure out where she lives. And the ultimate quest, the finale of this game, involves me finding my mother, my birth mother, who abused me as a child, and then raping her. And bonus points for impregnation, by the way. That's very important. Bonus points. There'd be achievements involved with that part as well. And all that. And yeah, this is the final mission, would be to rape my mother. Right? And of course she has to be my birth mother, because, it's not wincest if it's not real. Yeah, and that's the game. Alright? And the sequel, like I said, could have children. Young children. No, that's too far. Yeah, young children. Pedophilia, the game. You get my point, right? There is no limit as to how sick I can make this. There's literally no limit. It can get infinitely worse. There's a point at which it becomes so bad that you get numb to it. But at that point, it's not even worth going into, right? Just right here, though, it's clear that what we're dealing with... what we're dealing with is sick. It's decrepit. It's awful. It's passionless. Actually, it's not. It might not even be passionless. That's the scary thing. It's just, it's evil. It's glorifying a terrible act, and it's not criticizing the act. It's not satirizing the act. No, satire has a humorous element to it. No humor in this game. None at all. None of that shit. I want it to be perfectly realistic. It has to be exactly as authentic as rape would be in real life, with all the horror. Right? And then maybe she accuses you of raping her and you get away. Make it even worse. Yeah, you get the point. As it can be, there's no limit to how sick you can make this scenario. And then people are going to say, wait, but it's still subjective. No, it's not. Okay? I mean, there is an elaborate argument to be made about that. And it involves going into literary theory, my own literary theory, and I'm not going to get into that now. But suffice it to say that it's very difficult to justify that something like this could ever have intrinsic value. It's very difficult to justify that rape, the game, could ever have any good use to society intrinsically, in that can it inspire other good works? Well, no. It can inspire more of the same, but the same isn't exactly, we're not exactly talking good works here. Anyway. So based on what I just said about how, you can't judge people who play games, would you judge someone who played this game? Actually, think about it. If this game was real, I would probably try it out. Just out of curiosity, morbid curiosity, as they say. It'd be hard to get. Steam would definitely not host this. It would be banned in plenty of countries. It'd probably be banned in pretty much every country. In fact, you probably wouldn't be able to get this game outside of, like, the deep web, or the deep net, or whatever it's called. It would be pretty hard to get outside of the black market, because of how awful it is. Right? But people might still be attracted to that thing because of that whole morbid curiosity thing. It's weird. If it was well made, like studio quality, in fact, there's probably something kind of like that already exists. I don't know. You see, the way to interpret this is we have to look we have to look at the sort of the central point of a game like this. Why does a game like this exist? For every game that ever gets made, you get to ask a question, why does this game exist? What is this game trying to do? What is it trying to accomplish? What is it trying to show? What is it trying to make you feel? What is it trying to make you think about? What experience is it trying to grant the audience or the player? In other words, the theme of the game is big keyword, theme. What is the theme of this game? Well, the theme of this game is to experience rape and glorify it, because it's the reward in the game. It is glorification of rape. Quite literally, that is the point of this game. There is no misinterpreting that. It's not satire, because like I said, there's no humor, and, well, there's also possibility of shock value, but, so, yeah, let's look at the two scenarios. There's two scenarios here. Either it's glorifying rape explicitly, or it's just shock value. Right? And you're going to say, well, you can't judge people based on what they play in games. Imagine Rape 2, the pedophile edition. You can't judge people who play games, but imagine somebody played that game. Imagine they played it every day to the point where they were obsessed with it. They played it every damn day. They were obsessed with it. They loved it. They played it over and over and over again. Would you let that person watch your kids? Honest question, right? If art is so subjective, why exactly are you judging people for it then? That's judging this person, right? Or would you be perhaps a little skeptical of letting someone who obsesses over some content like that, anywhere near your children? And rightfully so, because there's no good reason why anyone should be obsessed with content like that, right? You see, the truth is you can judge people based on what they enjoy in art, right? You can make that judgment, right? Now, I don't agree with the whole thing that it's just like, well, if you like killing in a game, you're gonna like killing outside of a game. No, I don't agree with that. That is... the thing is, games that have killing are more than just about killing. And, killing is sort of different. We're sort of numb to it. Right? But even still, being addicted to that and being addicted to the killing part of it is still worrisome. I wouldn't agree with, but I said I wouldn't agree with people say that it creates or increases violence. I will say, though, that it definitely does tell you something about the people who enjoy it. And it does tell you about some of their character and their intentions and what they might do next. So, let's return to my rape scenario. Like I said, there's two themes to this game. One of two possible themes. Either it's glorifying rape, which means the people who could enjoy it and are people who want to rape. People who are rapists. And And same goes for the people who made it. Well, I made it, which means I'm the rapist, obviously. I made it because I'm a rapist. I love to rape, and I want to glorify it. Or rather, I made it because I'd much rather rape in the game than rape in real life. Whatever, right? But see, that's the reason, though. It's that the glorification of rape. So the only people who would really enjoy this game, then, are the rapists themselves. If this was the theme, if this was the first scenario, this theme of glorifying rape, the only people who would enjoy it are the rapists themselves. Now, believe it or not, this is actually a good thing, because if they're raping in the game in rape, they're not raping in real life. Good thing. But the thing is, that is not intrinsically valuable. That is extrinsically valuable. And this goes back to that literary theory idea, right? What is the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic value? Intrinsic value is when you do a thing, intrinsic value is something that when you create it, its point is to inspire other people to create similar things. The point of something like this is for dangerous people to just not do the dangerous thing they would do in real life and do it in the digital world instead. This is purely escapist in its purpose. Its only purpose is to protect, citizens by indirectly, getting rapists to play the game. So it does have a good element there. But then here's the downside. The question is like, if these people who want to rape, who need to rape so damn badly that, they're addicted to this heinous act. They're obsessed with it. They don't think about anything else. This is what they want to do. They are so awful, evil, and irredeemable that they literally need this kind of disgusting, awful game to keep them in check. Do they deserve to exist? Do they really should they really be in our world? Should we not get rid of them somehow? Maybe through, I don't know, not letting them breed or something, or if it's genetic. If it's not genetic, then some other means. But you see my point. It's like, do these people have the right to exist? Does this game have the right to exist, for that matter? Everyone should ask themselves this question: do I have the right to exist? People have become so complacent and selfish and just and entitled in the first world. They haven't asked themselves if they deserve to exist. But it's especially relevant here. Do these rapists deserve to exist? Oh, sorry, potential rapists? Guilty before proven innocent, whatever. I mean, it's clear that they're disturbed. It's clear that they're psychopathic, right? I mean, anyone who would actually say that this game is their favorite game ever and mean it has a problem. Invariably, they have a problem. I'm not just making, a bad, character judgment here. I'm not jumping the gun. This is a totally fair character judgment based on the media that they consume. There's nothing unfair about saying that they have a problem, that there's something fundamentally wrong with how they're wired, or how they're thinking, or how they were raised, whatever, etc. You see, you do have to judge people. Well, you can't not judge people, really. People say you shouldn't judge, but you can't not judge, so whatever. But in cases like this, you have to judge. And the only good thing about this game, Rape, is that it keeps these people off the streets. But at the same time, it also lets us know who they are, so that we can identify them and just, because there's no point to having people like this around. There's very little value. I mean, you might as well just throw them in jail, right, and let them play their rape game there. That's all they're living for, anyways, to just play this game of rape. I know it's a complicated argument, and I know that I'm sort of going fast and trying to simplify it, but just believe my point is that there is a point where you can make a content that is so sick that it can only ever appeal to people who are sick. And if that is in fact the case, then we need to ask ourselves, the question is, do these sick people deserve to exist? Because if they don't deserve to exist, then the content doesn't deserve to exist either. Because if they don't exist, the content appeals to no one, so then why is it even there? Now the other option, the second one I mentioned, is that this game is just there for shock value. It's not satire. Shock value is more just like, ooh, it's shocking, you know. Shock value is a very primitive emotion. Lizards feel shock, you know. Reptiles feel shock. It's not something that's profound. It's not deep. It's very, very superficial. In fact, it's the most superficial of emotions that probably exists. Even anger, even, you know, hatred is more nuanced than shock. Shock is just, oh my god, I cannot believe that this unexpected thing happened. You know, how unexpected and taboo. I have no respect for people who create shock value, things that have shock value. Shock value is definitely not intrinsically valuable. Shock value is just empty. It's just pointless. It's a waste of time. You know, people do it because they want cheap entertainment occasionally, but even they eventually get bored. There's nothing really that good about shock value, you know. And by the same token, if people shouldn't make things just for the purpose of shock value, then this game, Rape, doesn't have a purpose either. So either way, either theme, it fundamentally has no purpose. You know, if it's for shock value, it has no purpose because shock value has no purpose. If its purpose is to glorify rape, then its only purpose is to keep the real rapists off the streets, which only has a purpose so long as our society has rapists, so long as we haven't gotten into this utopia where we don't have rapists anymore. So basically, we're dealing with something here. This is an item of art that potentially that has no value. Intrinsically, again, it has no intrinsic value. And on that note, I can make the statement that it shouldn't exist, and that it is, in fact, immoral, because what it indicates is that the people who enjoy it have to be immoral. They have to be immoral to enjoy it. That's how bad it is you have to be immoral to enjoy it. Or just willing to experience shock, which is just not immoral, but it's still just, you know, zero. It's nothing. It's empty. So this is the point. Everything in art has to have this intrinsic value thing, rather than extrinsic value. The whole point of art is for intrinsic value. Rape the game, ladies and gentlemen. It would be a great game if it came out. I would play the shit out of that. Oh boy, would I play the shit out of that. Hear all the dislikes coming in and saying, "Well, art is still subjective." Yeah, it's not, but okay. Anyway, the question is, agree with me or not on the argument here is pretty loose, but just my point is just generally think about it. Think about it. Is it truly unfair to say that the art that someone enjoys says nothing about them? Is that truly a fair statement? That the art they enjoy is categorically okay because it says nothing about them. Nothing about them whatsoever. Is that a fair statement? I don't think it's a fair statement. Nor do I think art is just categorically correct, no matter what it is, no matter what the art is, right? The subjectivist is tempted to say that, but that's why the subjectivist is wrong. And the subjectivist probably lacks imagination too. If they could imagine some of the art, like this game Rape that I just presented, some of the the truly awful things that humanity could create, they'd probably think twice about saying that all of it is just subjective and whatever. Anyway, that's it. Cheers, and yeah, think about art.